to start off with, there are 4 divisional HR managers within the university, looking after the 4 different academic divisions and a number of all of the general services. As Jennifer said before, and I really like to take any opportunity to emphasise the fact that you can come and talk to a DHRM at any stage and just have a chat, and it's not always formal, and I think we kind of get that picture sometimes that you don't go to HR unless you want problems. But it's really nice when people come and chat to us about some of these situations, and we can give some direction, some advice, or help you work through a situation. And it may, as Jennifer says, it may go down an informal path, or we may recommend that it needs to be taken as a formal path. I'm just going to touch on one aspect of the ethical behaviour policy, which is the conflict of interest. Paul mentioned earlier, and I'm not going to go into any particular detail on unethical relationships, which is staff with students, but just talking in general about conflicts of interest that can occur in the workplace, and the policy goes into some detail on those. And quite often those conflicts are inherent in the relationship. They're not a result of any actions. So a relationship just exists. As we said earlier, the university is a huge organisation, so it's bound to be that family members or all sorts of relationships end up working in the same organisation. And it may be a daughter, a son, a partner or whatever that ends up working in a university. So inherent in the relationship is a potential conflict of interest, not through any actions of any particular people. And it quite often happens also when we're recruiting within a university and somebody's on a recruitment panel and they know one of the people. It could be a family member or whatever. And our aim is never to disadvantage people by, well, you can't work in this area because there's a relationship between you and this person or whatever, but to put measures in place to avoid the conflict, which protects the staff, or all staff members really, and to make that relationship known so that we can put parameters around it. Particularly in areas where there's a potential power differentiation. So for example, I have a family member working at the university who works in one of the areas I look after in HR. So if there were any issues, which there would never be, but if there were any issues, it wouldn't be dealt with by me, it would be dealt with by somebody else. So I had to declare that relationship so it was known that there's a conflict there. That also makes the working environment a lot easier for them. They don't have to bring those situations up with me or vice versa, their manager. So in the policy we talk about if you think there's a conflict of interest within your team or your work area, a relationship that you have with somebody else or that you're aware of, then have a chat to your manager, have a chat to HR or to any one of us here really, and we can work through whether that does or doesn't really exist. And if it does, then the process through the ethical behaviour policy to follow for that. And that's declaring the relationship, making sure we've got measures in place to cover any power differentiation, and that the manager is aware of that relationship. That's done in writing, so we put that down in writing that we've done that, and the actions we've put in place to make sure nobody's disadvantaged through that. It's a very, very important thing that we do that, because the policy also covers a failure to disclose a relationship that would constitute a conflict of interest. And that becomes a disciplinary matter. So as Jennifer said before, if you think there's a relationship like that, or you're involved in a relationship like that, or you have and relationships develop in the workplace amongst people, especially in an organisation this big. But failing to declare those relationships is problematic under the ethical behaviour policy. And so they need to be declared early on so that your manager, and if your manager's there's a conflict there, then going to the manager above that and making sure that we've followed the process and the policy. And as I say, relationships do develop in an organisation. We just need to make sure that all parties are in the right space for that we don't have any conflicts. When it comes to PDRs, when it comes to anything that deals with people's salaries or promotions or anything like that, or in academic departments quite often, with coordinating of papers and various things. So the conflict of interest part of the ethical behaviour policies, well, if you read that, if you have any concerns, then please contact us. Contact the union if you wanted to chat it through. If you're a union member and you wanted to chat it through with your union representative, they're also listed in the ethical behaviour policy. It can be a difficult conversation at times, but it's just one of those things we have to ensure we've got in place.